Right, I think we're good to go, Bernice. Okay. A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to this information session. My name is Frederick Nyberg. I'm the Managing Director for MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, based here in Singapore. Joining me from Singapore are my colleagues Glenn Lim and Bernice Tan. And we are very fortunate today to partner with our friends and colleagues in Korea, MediHeroes, and I will hand over to MediHeroes CEO Joanne Lee in just a minute, and she will introduce MediHeroes, and we will then have Ashley from MediHeroes provide a little bit of housekeeping and talk about how the simultaneous translation is going to work. So Joanne, thank you so much for partnering with us for this session, and I'll hand over to you for the introduction.
Thank you, Frederick. It's again a great pleasure to collaborate with the MedTech Innovator to host MedTech Innovator Acceleration Program for the APAC region. And MediHeroes is a cross-border B2B platform. And my name is Joanne. I'm CEO and the founder of MediHeroes. This is the third year that we co-host this event with MedTech Innovator. And last year was very special because Medipixel is actually the grand prize winner of MedTech Innovator APAC region. Okay, now let me introduce Miss Ashley Zhu. She's going to go over housekeeping rules. Thank you. Ashley, over to you.
Thank you, Joanne. May I share my screen?
Yes, of course. Go
Hello,
ahead.
everyone. Yeah, thank you, Frederick. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's session. Welcome to the MedTech Innovator Info session. Before the session gets started, I'd like to introduce the housekeeping rules for this session. First of all, please keep your name/company name in English in your Zoom profile. And second, the simultaneous translation for this session is activated. So once you have joined the Zoom conference, the following window will appear in the bottom. For our guests, please click the language you would like to hear. If you want to just hear the interpreted language only, click mute the original audio. And for our panelists, please stay in the main audio. The live Q&A session will be held about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the event. However, please feel free to post questions in the chat box in the middle of the session. And during the session, please raise a hand to ask the questions or post them in the chat box. Questions can be asked or posted either in English or Korean. Thank you, everyone, and over to Frederick.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Appreciate that. And I will now, let me just share my screen. There we go. Very good. So this info session is for any startup in medical devices, digital health, or in vitro diagnostics that is considering to apply to our 2024 Asia Pacific program. And for today's session, we'll focus on applicants and applications from Korea, which is why we have the simultaneous translation available to you, and why we partnered with MediHeroes for this. But the information that we present today is really relevant to any startup based elsewhere as well. We will talk about what the program entails, what you can expect, and what some of the benefits are of the program. And we will also hear from the head of medical operations of one of our 2023 cohort companies and the winner of the Grand Prize Award in 2023, Dr. Eric Min at Medipixel. So we'll introduce him in just a moment, and you'll be able to ask him questions directly as well. So for those of you who are joining us as webinar attendees and not watching us live on YouTube or LinkedIn, as Ashley mentioned, please queue up your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to those questions at the end of the session. Now, I'll come back to Eric in just a moment. What I will do first is talk very briefly about MedTech Innovator, who we are, and what the program entails. So we spoke about housekeeping, so I will not go over that again. But in terms of MedTech Innovator, what we do and who we are. So for those of you who are not familiar with MedTech Innovator, we are the world's largest accelerator for medical devices, digital health, and in vitro diagnostics companies. We are headquartered in Los Angeles, just off the UCLA campus. Our Asia Pacific headquarters is in Singapore, which is where I'm based. And the photograph that you see here is our 2023 cohort of accelerator companies and the winners. And of course, you have Medipixel represented there as well, as you probably can see. This was taken in Singapore at the grand finals and our showcase in December of last year. So if you want to be on this stage at the end of this year, do stay on this call. Now, what makes us different from many other similar programs is that we are entirely industry-led. So you will see some of the logos at the bottom of your screen. These are our industry, our corporate and our service provider partners. So they provide the financial support for us to run the program, and it also means that we are actively working with each of these companies, and they provide support in terms of evaluating applications, in terms of serving as judges on our pitch during our pitch events, and they also provide corporate mentorship during the accelerator, which I'll come to in a moment. So as I mentioned, we are the largest accelerator in the world, and that's measured by the number of alumni companies that have gone through MedTech Innovator. So we now have well over 600 alumni companies globally. More than 100 of those are from Asia Pacific. 95% of those companies are active and still in business or have been acquired. The 612 companies have gone on to raise $7.2 billion in follow-on equity funding. So they have been hugely successful. There have been 45 outright acquisitions. And we often get the question whether our participating companies are very early stage or later stage, and the short answer is it's a mixture of both. We are a little bit of a later stage accelerator, so we do not accept applications that are still university research projects. But if your company has spun off, if you have a legal entity, if you raised some initial funds, and you're at seed stage or pre-series A right up to series B, you are very welcome to apply. And as you can see here, 36% or approximately 1/3 of all the applications are companies that already generate revenue in some form. Now, I should say that we've been running the program for 11 years, so we're now in our 12th year, and we've been running it since 2019 in Asia Pacific. The accelerator is a 4-month accelerator, and it is virtual, so there is no requirement for any of the participating companies in the accelerator to relocate and to move to Singapore or anything like that. We do give away awards at the end of this, up to $300,000 in cash and in other awards. And one winner walks away with a check of $175,000 in cash, and it's entirely non-dilutive. We do not take equity in the companies that win. We do not charge a participation fee. And of course, as we'll hear in a moment, the $175,000 check last year went to, for the first time, to a Korean company, Medipixel. And we'll hear from Eric and Medipixel in just a moment. This is how the program works. We are now open for applications. We expect to have in excess of 400 applicants by the end of this month. So January 31st is the deadline for applications, and I encourage you not to wait until the last minute. It does take a little bit of time to complete the application online, so make sure that you have enough time to do that. Once the applications have been submitted, we will then pick, with the input of our corporate partners, the 50 or 60 top companies. They will get invited to pitch, and they will pitch either virtually or in person at a pitch event that we will be hosting in April in Singapore. And out of these companies, we will then select the best 20 companies to go into the accelerator, and out of the 20, we will select the top 4 or 5 that will compete for the grand prize. And of course, at the end of the day, there will be only one grand prize winner. But a lot of the key benefits of the accelerators, of course, will be there for all of the 20 companies that are in the cohort. So these are some of the key dates for 2024. As I mentioned, 31st of January is the deadline. January and February is when we do the reviews and evaluate those applications. March through to April. And May is when we do the pitch events, either in person or online. And we will be hosting an in-person event in April in Singapore. And if you get invited to present at that, you're more than welcome to come to Singapore for that event. In June, we will then kick off the accelerator program with the MedTech Innovator Summit in San Francisco. Now, we've been running the MedTech Innovator Summit in San Francisco for a number of years. Starting in 2023, that was the first year that we invited our Asia Pacific cohort to join that conference as well. So it's a 2-day conference in the Bay Area, with where you get to meet the not only your peers in the accelerator, but you get to meet the US accelerator companies, and you will get to meet alumni companies from MedTech Innovator, both from the US and APAC, as well as many of our corporate partners. There is actually a third day to that conference on the 14th of June, which is a partnership that we have with the largest law firm in California for medical devices, the Wilson Sonsini Group, and they host the Wilson Sonsini Medical Device Conference on the 14th of June, downtown San Francisco, and all of our cohort companies will have the opportunity to pitch there in front of US investors. July through to October is then the accelerator itself. So the San Francisco conference, if you like, kicks off the accelerator program, and we will then run 4 months of accelerator. And the showcase and the grand finals will take place in Singapore at the Asia Pacific MedTech Forum, which is hosted by the trade association here in Singapore, APAC Med. And the dates for that event is the 5th and 6th of September. So in 2023, that event took place in December. In 2024, that will take place in September. So it will be much earlier than last year. And because of that, the accelerator will actually continue beyond the date of the grand finals. All 20 companies in the Asia Pacific accelerator will be invited to Singapore to join that event and to present and showcase their products and innovations. And then we 4 to 5 finalists that will be presenting on the main stage, where we will give away the awards. This is a photo of the group that attended the MedTech Innovator Summit in San Francisco in June of last year. So if you do get invited to pitch, you want to block these dates so that you can join us for that if you get invited to the accelerator. Let's talk very briefly about what the accelerator provides. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, of course, with Eric in a moment. But there are two key components to the accelerator. One is the educational curriculum that we provide. We will survey our cohort companies at the beginning of the program for particular points and topics of interest. And we will then put together a tailored series of webinars where we will invite expert speakers. And that will take place over 10 weeks. And in addition to the educational webinars, we organize mentorships from our corporate partners and from other mentors and domain experts, either in Asia Pacific or in the US or both. And we try to identify mentors that are as relevant as possible for each of our participating companies. Every company in the accelerator gets a mentor. Some companies get 2 mentors, some get 3 mentors, which is a little bit unusual, but at least 1 mentor for each of the companies, and they will work closely with the CEO and the leadership team of each of the participating companies. We also provide other resources and guidance on funding. There's complimentary access to PitchBook and other activities. The community, of course, is a key benefit of being part of the MedTech Innovator program, and you'll see that from the San Francisco event, when you'll meet not just the Asia Pacific cohort participant, but you'll be able to meet with the US teams as well. And there is a lot of recognition and visibility that will come with being part of the program. As I mentioned earlier, and you'll see that here in the blue box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, we do not take any equity and we do not charge a participation fee. So there really is no downside for startups to apply to the program, other than you will need to take a little bit of time to complete the online application. There are also no restrictions on geography. So, of course, today's info session is specifically targeted participants from Korea, and we're very pleased by the number of Korean applications that we've had over the years. And of course, we're thrilled that we had our first Korean winner of the program in 2023. But we do have companies that apply from across Asia Pacific, as well as from other parts of the world. So if you are geographically based in Asia Pacific, or you have a strategic interest in the Asia Pacific markets, you should apply to the program. We did have a company from Israel in the grand finals last year. We've had companies from the US, from Canada, and from Europe as well, in addition, of course, to Australia and India and China and Japan and Singapore and so on. These are some photographs from different events that we organize throughout the year. So what differentiates our accelerator from other programs are really about the resources that we provide, the visibility that we can provide the companies, not only to the investor communities in Asia and in the US, but to the strategics and the large corporates. We spoke about the community and the mentorship, of course, as well. These are some examples of topics that we cover during the educational webinars. They can range from health economics to regulatory strategy, to raising capital, working on supply chain management, commercialization, or how to build advisory boards and set up legal entities in the US and so on. So broad range of topics. And these are some of the photographs, again, from the 2023 grand finals. They were taken in December, just last month, from the showcase and the grand finals here in Singapore. So as I mentioned, we are now open for applications, and the deadline is 31st of January. So please mark your calendars for that. And as I mentioned earlier, do not wait until the last day to submit your application. I really encourage all of you to go online and let me just share this with you very quickly. So you can use this QR code to access the application page and go online, set up your account, and start to look at what is required for the application. So with that, I would like to invite our my co-speaker today and head of medical operations at Medipixel, Dr. Eric Min. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you are based, and I'll get you to introduce yourself a little bit in just a moment. Congratulations again for winning last year's MedTech Innovator Grand Prize. You are based in Boston, so you are staying up late to join us today, and I really appreciate that. So Eric, maybe to begin with, I'll ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Medipixel and what Medipixel does.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's a great honor to be here. So my name is Eric Min. I serve a director of medical operations role at Medipixel. It's been about a year and a half since I joined the company, and also I am a practicing physician in the East Coast, Boston-based in the U.S. So Medipixel is a company that develops AI-based software solution that analyzes coronary artery angiogram. That just in ultimate goal is just to save more patients' lives from cardiovascular disease. And we've been having this wonderful journey, and MedTech Innovator last year, that 1-year journey was really a big step up for us. And I love to share I'm very excited to share the experience with MedTech Innovator.
Perfect. We're looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Eric. And maybe before we dive into the details of that, how did you at Medipixel originally find out about MedTech Innovator, and what made you decide to apply?
Sure. So just a disclaimer: the initial the application process and the initial part of that process, well, most of it was done by my other colleagues. So, but I heard kind of their impression and the stories. So just wanted to tell you that, because a lot of it is some things I heard, and then that instead of like me directly experiencing it. But that being said, so obviously Medipixel, we are based in South Korea, but now it's as a health tech startups. I mean, obviously our goal is just to become a global company, and we were trying to find some connection points to find some ways to be connected with those multinational companies, such as like Boston Scientific, Terumo, and others like Siemens, GE. And then since MedTech Innovator is the biggest accelerator program in the world, it just kept popping up, and then just was on the base of like, okay, so how do we make some connections and then expand to the global network? And then the MedTech Innovator was in the middle of it. So that's how we kind of found it, and we found their interest, and then that's how we applied.
Great. Thanks for that. So I don't recall now, Eric, if you were also involved in the early pitching of when Medipixel, of course, got invited to pitch during one of our virtual pitch events. This must have been March or April in 2023. How was that experience? And were you there actually?
I was actually I was.
Forgive me for not remembering.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I do remember. For the pitching events, yes, I was with all the pitch events at every step of the way.
Excellent.
From the very beginning to the up to the grand final.
Yeah. Yes. So maybe tell us a little bit about your overall experience. We'll go into the details of some of the elements in a moment, but maybe your overall impression of of the program, from the pitching at the beginning to the accelerator program itself, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit later about the showcase and the grand finals.
Sure. So it was a big learning experience. Obviously, as a physician, there was one of the big key learning moments that actually I was being judged in front of some other people, like, on the quality of the contents and how I deliver things. And that alone was a great learning experience and sort of my growth phase. And that really, that each time I pitched and that I could see like that practice session, okay, so someone giving us feedback with a lot of industry experience, then each time I found myself, okay, I get more comfortable and I get better, because I think that's one of the big benefits of this Meta Innovator, that you just pitch so many times. And that was that kind of nerve-wracking first. I was just so nervous, and then each time I go beyond, and then the accelerator programs, and then you find all those opportunities to get the feedback, now how you can refine your skills to really to shine, and how to give the information in a most concise but most effective way. And then that really Meta Innovator has helped through all these processes for my personal growth, and also that led to the company's growth. So yeah, that's probably one of the most valuable aspects, I would say.
That's great, and thanks for that. And I'll just interrupt you for a second. Sorry about that, Eric. But just for the audience here, when we do organize the pitch events, whether they are virtual or in person, we typically have a panel of judges. It's not a small panel. We have typically 30, 35, 40 judges on that panel. And these are, of course, senior executives from our corporate partners, and therefore from the industry and the strategics, as well as the investor community, and other domain experts. What we also try to do is, for every company that pitches, we collect anonymous feedback from the judges, and we email that back to the companies that have pitched. So even if you pitch and you may not get invited to join the accelerator, there is still a benefit and as Eric mentioned, a good experience just pitching, because we will give everyone who pitches direct feedback, and that can be quite practical and concrete, and say, well, your value proposition was not clearly articulated, or this slide was very confusing, or you forgot to talk about your competition. It can be very, very tactical, but it can also be very helpful as you're refining your pitch and you're looking to raise more money. So Eric, you of course, Medipixel then got selected to the accelerator, and maybe tell us a little bit about your experience with the accelerator and the webinars, the mentorship experience, perhaps, as well.
Sure. So the really mentorship experience, that was those personable mentors, that they really, really appreciate all the involvement. And the one thing I was really most impressed with was how much they care, really. It's not just, being a mentor, but really they try to really hold hands and then just walk with you. And this one story, like, one of our mentors actually had some health problems, had a major surgery, and then so was not able to have participate in some meetings on a scheduled day. And then actually, after he recovered, like, he just joined right back, and then try to kind of catch up and all, just so we just to make sure that we didn't really miss out much. I mean, that really meant a lot for us. It really meant the world for us. Like, okay, this Meta Innovator really are there, and then really care about our success and then our progress as a startups. That's really what was impressive.
And you had two mentors, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then also, since this is a geography neutral program, sometimes the the finding the time to have meetings has been a big challenge. And then the mentors have been so helpful, and then so kind of accommodating to find all the times they need. They are also busy, entrepreneurs, and with busy with their own business, and really their mission is to really help. And then overall we are all in this together. Just find all this innovative health technology, and then and solutions to ultimately just bring more benefits for the patients, and then really to the rest of the world. And that kind of sense of community, and then being part of this something bigger, that's really also what we really enjoyed throughout the process.
That's great to hear. And if I'm not mistaken, you had one mentor based in the US and I think one based in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it does take a little bit of planning in terms of getting
That's right,
getting
yeah.
the time zones right, of course, as well. Great. So the towards the end of the accelerator, of course, everyone was getting prepared for coming down to Singapore for the showcase and the grand finals. So maybe tell us a little bit about your experience in Singapore, and yeah,
Okay.
both with the showcase and the finals.
Sure. That it was warm and humid. That's first impression I got when I
That is
landed
true.
in
Yeah.
Singapore. Yeah, but yeah. So the first impression was bigger than I anticipated, and a lot more organizations and companies were involved. Because I didn't really. It was the first time attending the MedTech Innovator, and that it was kind of funny that when we saw that all the conference, not the conference room, but the separate room with all the booths and everything. And then actually when I saw that first, and say, oh, this is not actually really big. And I didn't realize that there was a whole separate room, with the hundreds of seats, just, doing lectures and all. So
Right.
that now I saw that, oh, wow, this is really the grand scale of things. And I mean, since the MedTech Innovator, it's been running for over a decade. I mean, especially the staffs and how well they are organized, and then they're running things smoothly. That was also one of the things that I was really impressed with. Because yeah, as a health startup, actually, we have participated in multiple different accelerator programs and innovators. And yeah, I mean, there's a reason why MedTech Innovator is one of the largest, actually the largest, the program in the world. And then yeah, it's really being able to see all those people like trying to really change the world, and then it kind of gaining that perspective alone was also very useful and very eye-opening. They really broadened my horizon throughout that 3-day conferences, and of course that culminated to that grand final pitch competition, and the whole experience was just so valuable for my personal growth, really. That our company really grew with that 1-year program, and then that the last 3 days was really the culmination of that whole process. So really enjoyed, yeah, joining that.
Thanks, Eric. That's really kind feedback, and I think helpful for the audience here as well. And just to maybe describe what that event looks like. So it's something that we do in partnership with APAC Med, which is the Asia Pacific Medical Technology Association. So their annual Asia Pacific MedTech Forum, which, as I mentioned earlier, will take place on the 5th and 6th of September this year, is it's probably in terms of number of participating companies, it's not like a Medica. It is more of an event that brings in the most senior level executives from the big strategics, all the large corporate multinationals, of course, not just the ones that are MedTech Innovator partners, but there are people there from Stryker and Terumo and Medtronic and all of these companies are there. And it's not just the middle managers that are there. In fact, it is mostly the Asia Pacific presidents that will be there. chairman of J&J Asia Pacific, president of Asia Pacific for Terumo. I was sitting next to the regional APAC president of Roche Diagnostics. They are all at this event, and their direct reports are there as well. So the sort of the C-1, the senior vice presidents as well. So in terms of just the level of seniority among the executives from the strategics that are there I think it's the only event in Asia Pacific where you have that level of participation. So the big benefit of course of that is when you are there and you maybe want to meet with a senior executive from Stryker or from Medtronic or Siemens Healthineers. They will all be at this conference, and we have the opportunity to just pull you aside and make those introductions, or you can schedule them ahead of time. So that obviously is a big benefit. The other thing, and I think Eric mentioned this as well, is maybe that just to give everyone a size of the scale. So there is a separate showcase stage where all the 20 accelerator, medtech innovator accelerator companies present, but the 4 or 5 finalists, that included Medipixel, of course, last year. They get to pitch and present on the main stage in the main plenary hall. So the audience there would probably be somewhere between maybe 800, 900, maybe 1,000 people. So quite a large group, and we then have four judges up on that main stage, and Eric obviously did an outstanding job delivering that final pitch for Medipixel. Eric, maybe you can tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, what the most valuable aspects perhaps were from Medipixel's perspective of being part of the program, and if there are some specific examples of how it helped Medipixel.
So I think the one aspect, is really kind of turning our kind of scale of thoughts and our perspective, that from being a kind of local startup to become really the global scale company. And I think the big help to achieve that transformation was the accelerator, then the curriculum and all this educations we received. And this, I'm quoting my colleague, like he thought that this guy who was a big part of that education, and he mentioned that he felt that he was sort of in the university, like, getting a degree, and there was fairly rigorous, like very comprehensive topics. They talk about how the startups can succeed, and then what you need to really work on, and then in this current trend. And especially I assume a lot of the participants of this talk is working with probably AI-based technologies, and it's just so fast-paced and changing, and it's really hard to keep up. And really hearing the industry leaders' perspective during the education sessions, it's really invaluable. And that many months of the accelerator with that knowledge, the acquiring that knowledge is really huge, and probably one of the most valuable aspects of this, the innovator again. And also I have to keep repeating, like, that being able to really practice that pitch and refine it is, from my perspective, it's just probably the most value you can get out of this innovator. And really, it's a low stake, Frederick, as you mentioned. It's not like you're presenting and pitching in front of some investors. I mean, that's eventually going to happen for, like, in front of venture capitalists, and that stake is a lot higher there. I mean, if you don't do well, and it may actually impact the future survival of a company. But here, everybody, all those judges are there. Ultimately, they're there to help you, and then give you some really valuable and then usable feedback that you can really employ, and then take your pitch to the next level. And again, no participation fee, or really at no risk. You can gain all that experience, is really there's no other match here, and then there's nothing to lose and really everything to gain. So that's what I would like to really emphasize.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eric. That's great. And we do actually provide pitch coaching for the companies that go to the accelerator, and of course the ones that go to the grand finals, including Medipixel.
Right.
So there's sort of one-on-one pitch coaching. I think you did with Paul Grant, our CEO, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, CEO will give you the one-on-one pitch coaching. I mean,
so the MedTech Innovator
that's
CEO will
quite
do
something, you know. Yeah, and yeah, that's right.
So great feedback. So maybe I'll ask you what advice you might have for applicants or for company startups now that are based in Korea or elsewhere that are thinking of applying to the program. What advice would you give them?
I think really I mean, probably you are all just doing it already, but just find what differentiates you and then what makes you special, because there are just so many different startups. And if you Google it, like probably you're already gonna find some different companies that are probably competing with you and working on a similar context of technology. And just look at what you're working with, and then okay, what is going to be the wow factor like out of this technology I'm developing or this product I'm developing. And this kind of this is my own opinion, but all these applications and the pitch, like really the more concise you can deliver things, the better. All those fluffy words really doesn't matter. And really how can you really penetrate someone's heart, like it could be venture capitalist or your customer or your some like physicians or who may be an influencer for you. And really and make sure that you add some sort of emotional some impact to that as well. Then while you're working on this maybe similar things and then try to develop similar types of solutions with other competitors, like what will really again going back to the question, what makes you special? Like why are you doing that? Like what's driving you to really solve that problem? And I think the kind of incorporating that into your application, into your pitch, I think that makes that much powerful, and they can potentially make you stand out amongst other crowds.
Very helpful. Thanks. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Eric. Great getting your feedback. I really appreciate your time. If you don't mind, just stay on for the next 15 minutes as we go into
Sure.
Q&A,
Yeah.
because there may very well be questions that that our audience would like to ask of you directly. So we are now moving into the Q&A section. So please, again, queue up your questions using the Q&A function or the chat function of the screen. I'll share the QR code so everyone has immediate access to just use that and you'll get to the application page. So let's move on to the questions, and we have a first question here, and I'm just reading them off the screen. This is about a startup that is in the process of pivoting. The question is, can a startup present a product which is not available in the market yet? The startup only has a prototype. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, the majority of companies that apply to MedTech Innovator are not yet on the market. As you saw in maybe my earlier slide, about 1 in 3, about 35-36% of the applicants, of the startups that apply, have some sort of revenue. But a lot of that revenue is from early hospital pilots as well. And the balance 2/3 are companies that don't have revenue. On average, the companies that apply to MedTech Innovator are about 18 months from commercialization. They typically do have a prototype, but it's not necessary that you have, it's not even necessary that you've done your first in-man study. If you've done some preclinical work, that's absolutely fine. Of course, if you are already doing clinical trials and if you have started on your regulatory approval process, that's wonderful. That's better. But we will consider companies that are later stage as well as early stage. And the winner is not selected based on your stage of development. So we have had companies win that are at seed and pre-series A stage. We've had companies win that are at series A and series B. So if you only have a prototype, no problem at all. You're welcome to apply. Let me go through some of the other questions that we have here. What benefits and support does the winner have? So of course, the winner gets has the benefit of having gone through the entire accelerator. The winner will walk away with the check of 175,000 US dollars, which is completely non-dilutive. We don't take any equity stake for that. Going through the program, whether you win or not, means that you are now a MedTech Innovator alumni company. And that comes with benefits. So it's not just a matter of the end of the program and then you never hear from us again and we never hear from you. So as an example, the San Francisco Summit, the conference that we organize in San Francisco in June, is open to all of our alumni companies. So if you've been through the MedTech Innovator program, you are welcome to join us for that. So I hope to see someone from Medipixel hopefully join us in June for that summit. And we invite our alumni to get involved, maybe in running workshops for the current cohort company and share some of their experiences. And you are also welcome to continue to reach out to your network and your contacts at MedTech Innovator if you have any questions or need any help or need any introductions. So we've had companies that were in our cohort 2 years ago, and they will email us and say, I'm traveling to the US and I'm looking for an investor in this particular area, or an investor that has this kind of experience. Can you recommend someone? And usually we can. So we will do whatever we can to help our alumni companies, whether you are the winner or not. So I'll move on to the next question here. I am curious how MedTech Innovator fund all the activities. You explained that you don't collect participation fee. What is the business model of MedTech Innovator? It's a good question. So we are a non-profit organization, but we need to fund our ongoing operations. So we rely on corporate sponsorships or partnerships. So the funds come from the likes of Olympus and Johnson & Johnson and Siemens Healthineers and Teleflex and B. Braun and Becton Dickinson and Baxter and all these other companies that are in our among our partners, whether they are large manufacturing strategics or whether they are service providers. They are the ones that pay us the funds, which we will pool, and we will use that pool to allocate money for awards, and we will use that money to support our day-to-day operations. So that's the business model. I'll go on. We have additional questions here. I applied last year, but did not get into the program. Can I still apply this year? Absolutely. We have a number of companies that apply to that have applied previously, and they are more than welcome to apply again. So in fact, we've had companies that applied 2-3 years ago in the US most recently, and they went on to reapply and they won the competition. So that can certainly happen. Companies evolve and companies develop. You hit new milestones, you make new achievements, and as you do that, you will be viewed differently by our reviewers and our judges. So on the startup side, things change and things evolve and you make progress. But also in terms of our corporate partners, they may change over the years. So we may not have had a partner in one particular clinical area 3 years ago, and now all of a sudden we are really interested in certain types of whatever it may be, interventional neurology, just as an example. So companies that may have been rejected 3 years ago may very well get accepted now. If you are rejected, it does not mean that you are no good. It may just simply mean that you are not an immediate match with our corporate partners. And we want to make sure that we find companies where there are mentors. So if you have applied in the past, you are most welcome to reapply. We have many companies that reapply and go on to be very successful. Another question here is, can an applicant apply both to the US program and to the Asia Pacific program? So the short answer to that is yes, you can, but we don't recommend it. If you can only go into the accelerator one program or the other. So if you apply to both programs, then we at MedTech Innovator will decide whether we think you are more appropriate for the US program or the Asia Pacific program. If you are already based in the US, you have an organization in the US, you are actively developing the US market, and that is your number one priority. If you've already entered the US, then it might make sense for you to apply to the US program directly. Just make sure that you understand that there are many more applicants to the US program than to the Asia Pacific program. So there is much more competition getting into the accelerator in the US program. If you are headquartered here in Asia Pacific, and you already have good traction in one or multiple markets here in Asia, even though, of course, every single medical device company and digital health and diagnostics company will probably want to enter the US market sooner or later. But if you're based here and you already have a presence in Asia Pacific, you're looking to expand that presence in Asia, then you should apply to the Asia Pacific program. There is also the issue of time zones. So we are based in Singapore, 1 hour away from Korea. So when we run webinars, when we do educational events, when we do pitch events, it will be on a time zone that is comfortable for you. Let's see if we have other questions here. Here is another one. Are judges different from one year to another? Good question. Some of our judges are the same, and they have been judges for many years. They're, if you like, veteran judges, and some judges are new. So we usually have, for Asia Pacific, we have between 30 and 40, 30, 40, 45 judges. They are, many of them are very familiar with MedTech Innovator and have been judging for a number of years. But we do like to have new judges come on board as well. From our corporate partners, let's say a Johnson & Johnson, they might have 5 or 6 judges. And they will bring in judges that are relevant for a particular startup or a particular clinical area of focus. So we might run one pitch event focused only on, let's say, surgical interventions, next-gen surgical, and orthopedics. So our corporate partners will bring in their experts on orthopedics and surgical. They will not be the same people that will be there for a company that is in vision care or ophthalmology. That would be a different person and a different judge. So we try to make sure that from our corporate partners, we get the best possible judges that have the domain expertise and understand your business very, very well. We have plenty of questions here. That's great. So keep them coming in. When will the pitch events start? Are they virtual or physical? So the pitch events will begin in March, and most of our pitch events will happen in March and April. We will be hosting 3 virtual pitch events. So for the virtual events, you do not need to travel, obviously, and they tend to be thematic. So they are based on certain clinical areas of focus. And we will have 1 in-person pitch event that will take place here in Singapore during the month of April, and we'll be confirming those dates very shortly. I have another question here for the mentors. How are the mentors selected for each of the company in the program? The short answer to that is we do one-on-one calls with each of our accelerator companies at the beginning of the program to understand their goals, their expectations of the program. Based on those calls, we identify the mentors. And I think, Eric, you spoke briefly about your mentors. You had one out of Singapore, you had one out of the US. Do you want to just briefly talk about some of those interactions with those mentors and some of the value they brought to Medipixel, perhaps briefly again?
Sure. So it's the more you put in, the more you can get out. So they're there to help you, but obviously, they're not going to do the job for you. So really, if you get selected, then you start working with mentors, then really the interaction will depend on how much you bring into the table, like what questions you have, and all the thoughts you put into the business model or reimbursement strategies. I mean, they will have answers. If they don't, then they will try to find answers for you or find somebody who may have the answer. So it's really the great resource you can utilize. Yeah, that it's really they're there to help.
Yeah.
But you need to really take initiative to really receive the help.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. That's a great point. And we do actually provide mentor coaching. So we coach our mentors, and we provide coaching to the startups as well in terms of managing that mentor-mentee relationship. So I had another question here. Before COVID, we did host some in-country pitch events. Do you plan to host them again anytime soon? The short answer to that is yes, we are. Most likely not in 2024, other than Singapore, because the timelines are unusually tight this year with the grand finals and the showcase taking place in early September. We did host local pitch events in Tokyo, in Shanghai, and in Sydney back in 2019, and we are likely to go back to that format in 2025. Do we have any other questions here at all? Just turning to Joanne and to Bernice. One common question that we get is, and we do have a minute or so left here, is do I need, as a startup, do I need to sign an NDA to apply? Please note that you do not need to sign an NDA to apply. In fact, we ask you not to submit any confidential information in your application. When you present and pitch to a VC, typically a VC or an institutional investor will never sign an NDA, and our corporate partners will not sign an NDA either at the stage when you are pitching. So don't submit anything that is confidential in your application. And for the pitch event, there is no need to sign an NDA, and our judges will not sign NDAs. However, when you get accepted into the accelerator and you start to perhaps have very technical conversations with your mentor, it is perfectly fine to, at that stage, to say, okay, now we're having a technical discussion. To go further in these discussions, we would like to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So that is absolutely fine. At that stage, it's not mandatory, and it's something that you can then decide with your mentor directly. Couple of more quick questions. When should we expect to hear back from our applications? So as I mentioned, the application deadline is 31st of January. You will hear back from us probably by the end of February or early March to the invitation to pitch. But please bear in mind, even if we end up in middle of March and you have not yet heard from us, we will be running pitch events until the end of April. So it may not be that you have been rejected. It may simply be that we have not invited, you've not been invited because the pitch event is only happening at the end of April. So we invite companies to pitch in batches. The first companies will hear from us probably end of February, but if you're pitching at the end of April, you may only hear from us beginning of April or end of March. So feel free to drop us an email if you want to ask what the status is, but usually that is the time frame. I have another last question here for US program applicants. Do the winners need to relocate to the US? No, is the answer to that. Whether you are applying to the Asia Pacific program, and I get that some questions sometimes for Asia Pacific. If you're applying to the Asia Pacific program, do you need to relocate to Singapore? Absolutely not. You don't even need to have a business in Singapore. If you apply to the US program, do you need to relocate to the US? No, it is not necessary that you relocate to the US. Now, if you apply to the US program, you will benefit much more from that program if you have a presence in the US. If you have no presence in the US whatsoever, we encourage you to apply to the Asia Pacific program. We will still talk to you about entering the US because many companies here ultimately want to enter the US, and we will have speakers and mentors from the US that will provide mentorship and guidance to companies that apply to the Asia Pacific program. But you do not need to relocate for either program. I am conscious of time, and we are at the top of the hour. Joanne, I don't know if you have any final questions, any final comments from your side before we wrap up?
I think all the questions are covered, answered by you as usual. So no more question from my side.
Very, very good. So a big thank you to Joanne and the MediHeroes team for co-hosting this event, and thank you, Eric, so much for joining us. I know it's late in the evening for you. Your input, I think, is really helpful for companies that are thinking of applying. Congratulations again to Medipixel for taking home last year's grand prize. And for those of you who are thinking of applying, do not wait, please, until the last minute. Go online now, look at how you can start your application, and try to get that into us as soon as possible. The other benefit of applying early is you will get an early review because our corporate partners will have access to the database of applicants, and they will be able to review your application before the deadline. So again, Joanne, thank you so much, and Eric, thank you, and thank you to the Medipixel team, and email us if you have any questions, and we hope to see your application among our applicants soon. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.